There's a growing buzz in Chicago, a whisper that's becoming a full-blown rumor as the NFL draft inches closer. The Bears, holding the number 10 pick, are at the center of speculation once again. But this time, it's not about quarterbacks or edge rushers. No, the noise surrounds a tight end, and not just any tight end. Colston Loveland, the smooth-moving weapon out of Michigan, is emerging as a real possibility for the Bears in the first round. And when a respected voice like ESPN's Matt Miller throws his opinion into the mix, fans and analysts alike start paying attention. Matt Miller's recent statement didn't just suggest Loveland is in play for Chicago. It came with conviction. If the Bears sit at 10 with no Ashton Gentry on the board, he said, give me Colston Loveland to run 12 personnel with Cole Kmet. I take him over Tyler Warren. Better mover, better blocker, better route runner. That endorsement lit up Bears social media. Could Ryan Poles and the Bears front office really be considering a tight end in the top 10? It's not that Loveland isn't worthy of the discussion. He is. His production in Michigan, despite inconsistent quarterback play, speaks volumes. He recorded 56 receptions for nearly 600 yards and 5 touchdowns last season. And while those numbers don't necessarily scream top 10 pick, the context matters. Michigan didn't have an elite passing attack in 2023, and Loveland was still their leading weapon through the air. The year before, with J.J. McCarthy operating at a more efficient level, Loveland averaged 14 yards per catch, showcasing his explosiveness and ability to stretch the field vertically from the tight end spot. What makes Loveland a unique prospect isn't just his production, it's how he looks doing it. He glides on the field. There's a natural fluidity to his movement that you don't always see at the position. He's not necessarily a bulldozer like Gronkowski or a twitchy mismatch nightmare like Darren Waller, but there's a polish and balance to his game that feels eerily similar to early career Travis Kelce. He's a reliable route runner, attacks the seam with confidence, and can make tough catches in traffic. He's also an adequate blocker, which is important for a Bears offense that prides itself on being physical up front. Still, there's a divide among draft analysts and fans when it comes to Loveland versus someone like Tyler Warren. If Loveland is the sleek sports car, Warren is the rugged pickup truck. Warren might not have the same smoothness to his game, but he brings physicality, versatility, and a mean streak after the catch. He's more of a mismatch piece, someone you can line up wide, in the backfield, or in the slot. He's got that our weapon label attached to him, not just tight end. And in today's NFL, that matters. Harrison Graham, the voice behind Bears Now by Chat Sports, made it clear where he stands. He's Team Tyler Warren, and for a very specific reason. Fit. With Cole Kmet already established as the traditional inline tight end, the Bears don't necessarily need another player in the same mold. They need a complement, a guy who can do the things Kmet doesn't, who can line up all over the field, break tackles after the catch, and bring a little chaos to the defensive game plan. That's what Warren offers. He may not be as refined as Loveland, but his physical traits and playmaking upside give him an edge in Chicago's current setup. But what happens if both of these tight ends are on the board at 10 and the Bears are forced to choose? Or perhaps more realistically, what if Ashton Gentry, the all-purpose back out of Boise State who's been heavily linked to the Raiders, is off the board by the time Chicago is on the clock? That's the scenario Matt Miller was painting, and in that case, Loveland becomes a much more viable option. The Bears' tight end room as it stands isn't deep enough. Cole Kmet is solid, even underrated at times. Durham Smythe and Steven Carlson, they're fine depth pieces, but they don't scare anyone. If Chicago doesn't take a tight end in the first round, they better add one somewhere else, because this current trio isn't going to cut it in week 1. Whether it's through the draft, a trade, or free agency, a fourth tight end with serious upside is a must. That's where the appeal of a player like Loveland starts to make more sense, especially if a trade down scenario doesn't materialize. Speaking of trade downs, a move back a few spots could be the sweet spot for Loveland. If the Bears could slide back to, say, pick 13 or 14 and pick up an extra third rounder in the process, grabbing Loveland there feels like better value. One team to watch is the Indianapolis Colts at 14. They desperately need a tight end and could pull the trigger if Loveland is still there. Another possibility, the Miami Dolphins at 13. If they want to jump a spot or two and the Bears are willing to slide back, that could set up a perfect marriage of value and need. But the draft is rarely that clean. There are always surprises, trades, and teams acting out of character. And that's why fans can't take their eyes off of what's happening in Las Vegas. Because while Ashton Gentry to the Raiders at pick 6 has become the expectation, nothing is set in stone. There's a new wrinkle emerging that could dramatically shift how the top 10 plays out. Colton Miller, the Raiders' starting left tackle, is not currently participating in off-season activities and is reportedly seeking a contract extension. While he's a seasoned veteran, Las Vegas has yet to begin talks, and his future beyond 2025 is uncertain. What does that mean for Chicago? Well, it opens the door to the Raiders taking a tackle at 6. Someone like Will Campbell, Armin Mims, or even trade him back to grab one later. If that happens, Gentry could fall past him. And if he gets past Vegas, suddenly the path to Chicago becomes a lot clearer. There's always the threat of a team trading up. Maybe Dallas gets aggressive or Denver makes a move, but if things stay as they are, the Bears could be staring at a dream scenario where one of the draft's top playmakers falls right into their lap at 10. But if that doesn't happen, if Gentry is gone and no trade down option presents itself, then yes, Colston Loveland might just be the pick. He'd be one of 5 or 6 names the Bears would have to seriously consider in that moment. Along with Loveland, names like Kelvin Banks, Josh Connolly, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, and Marion Hampton could all be in play depending on how the board falls. In that context, taking Loveland at 10 isn't outrageous. It's a reflection of how this draft class is viewed and how valuable a dynamic tight end can be in a league that's constantly evolving offensively. So here we are, days away from the draft. And Bears fans are left dreaming, debating, and dissecting every possibility. Whether it's Loveland, Warren, Gentry, or someone entirely unexpected, the number 10 pick holds the potential to shape the next chapter of Chicago football. And as we've learned in recent years, the Bears war room isn't afraid to throw a curveball. What's fascinating about this whole scenario is how the Bears have positioned themselves. After years of struggling to find a true identity on offense, Ryan Poles has slowly constructed something that's beginning to look like a legitimate foundation. The addition of DJ Moore last offseason was massive, and now with Keenan Allen in the fold, even if only temporarily, Chicago's receiving core has suddenly become one of the more intriguing in the league. Add in DeAndre Swift out of the backfield, and you've got a dynamic, versatile attack that just needs 1 or 2 more pieces to fully click. That's where the tight end conversation becomes even more compelling. Cole Kmet has developed nicely over the past 2 seasons. He's a strong blocker, an underrated red zone target, and someone who has clearly earned the trust of the coaching staff. But he's not a difference maker. He's not someone who strikes fear into a defense the way a George Kittle or a Mark Andrews does. He's steady, he's solid, and he belongs. But pairing him with someone who can break a game open, someone like Loveland or Warren, that's what could elevate this offense from decent to dangerous. There's a real sense that this is the year the Bears must strike. They've got 2 picks in the top 10. That kind of capital doesn't come around often, unless your season was a disaster. But in this case, it's the result of a savvy trade with Carolina. And now Chicago gets to reap the benefits. With Caleb Williams expected to be the first overall pick, the Bears have their quarterback of the future. The next step? Surround him with as much talent as possible, and that's where things get fun. Imagine an offense that lines up with DJ Moore wide left, Keenan Allen in the slot, Colston Loveland attached to the line, and Cole Kmet opposite him in a tight 12 formation. Swift in the backfield, Williams under center. That's a lot for a defense to account for. Motion Loveland into the backfield. Now you got an H-back look. Split him wide. Suddenly he's a mismatch against a nickel corner. These are the kinds of versatile wrinkles that give offensive coordinators like Shane Waldron the flexibility to dictate tempo and matchups. But none of this works unless Loveland is as good as advertised. And that's the gamble, isn't it? Drafting a tight end at 10 overall isn't a common move. It's a statement. It says you believe this player isn't just another cog in the machine. He is the machine. He's a focal point, a threat, a player you build game plans around. That's the level of impact the Bears would be banking on. Historically, taking tight ends that early has been hit or miss. Kyle Pitts went 4th overall to Atlanta in 2021, On paper, the talent was undeniable, but as he lived up to it, that's still up for debate. Then there's TJ Hawkin. For starters, his ability to win at all three levels. He's not just a possession target underneath. He can stretch the seam, find soft spots in zone, and even beat corners down the sideline when isolated. He's a natural hands catcher, and his ability to track the ball in the air is top tier. When you combine that with the football IQ he's shown on tape, subtle route adjustments, awareness of leverage, understanding of space, it's easy to project him as a player who can thrive early in his NFL career. Then there's the leadership piece. Loveland was acquired by respected presence in the Michigan locker room. He's not going to be the rah-rah guy, but he puts in the work, doesn't shy away from contact, and does the dirty work that doesn't show up on stat sheets. That mentality will resonate in a Bears locker room that's trying to redefine its culture under Poles and head coach Matt Eberflus. And yet, with all of this in mind, the debate rages on. Should the Bears really use the 10th pick on a tight end? Wouldn't it make more sense to go with an offensive tackle like Connolly or Banks, especially with Braxton Jones still unproven at left tackle? Or what about taking a swing on a defensive lineman like Walter Nolan or Harmon to bolster the interior pass rush? These are valid arguments, and they highlight the complexity of the decision at hand. What it really boils down to is philosophy. Are the Bears trying to build a team that can compete for a playoff spot in 2025? Or are they taking the long view, aiming to surround their rookie quarterback with the kind of talent that can grow with him over the next 5 years? If it's the latter, then drafting someone like Loveland makes a lot more sense. You don't draft him to make a splash in September. You draft him because by 2026, he might be the piece that unlocks everything. And let's not forget the economic angle. Having two starting caliber tight ends on rookie contracts gives the Bears massive flexibility when it comes to building the rest of their roster. As the cap continues to rise and contract values skyrocket, locking in productive players on rookie deals becomes even more important. If Loveland produces anywhere close to expectations, he's a bargain at pick 10, especially when compared to what top-tier tight ends command on the open market. Of course, all of this is theoretical. It assumes the Bears stay put. It assumes they don't trade down. It assumes that Ashton Gentry is off the board. And it assumes that they've got Loveland graded higher than a guy like Warren or one of the top tackles. That's a lot of assumptions. But that's the beauty of draft season. It's fluid. One move, one decision, one unexpected pick can change the entire board. There's also the possibility of chaos. What if the Patriots, sitting at 3, don't take a quarterback? What if the Giants trade up? What if Dallas, desperate for a weapon, jumps Chicago and snatches Loveland at 9? These are the variables that make it impossible to predict with certainty. And yet, every year we try, as the draft draws closer, the chatter will only get louder. Coast and Loveland will continue to rise up boards. Teams will start leaking interest. Fans will begin imagining what he'd look like in their team's jersey. And in Chicago, the dream of pairing him with Caleb Williams will gain momentum. Because in a league where tight ends are becoming more and more central to offensive success, having a player who can line up anywhere, block in line, and run a fade route in the red zone is a weapon you don't pass on lightly. Maybe he's the pick, maybe he's not. But one thing's for sure, the Bears are in a position of strength, and for once they have options. That alone is a victory. What they do with it? Well, that's what will define the next decade of football in Chicago. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy, drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. What happens when the brightest star in your offense starts gazing toward the exit? In the heart of the Windy City, a storm is brewing. Not from Lake Michigan, but within Hallas Hall itself. DJ Moore, the wide receiver who was supposed to be the Chicago Bears' offensive cornerstone, has begun showing signs that his time in Chicago may be winding down far sooner than anyone expected. Despite back-to-back productive seasons and a record-breaking contract, sources close to the situation suggest Moore has grown increasingly frustrated with the direction of the team, and he might already be eyeing the door. When Moore was traded from the Carolina Panthers in March 2023 as part of the blockbuster deal that brought the Bears a bounty of picks, including what became Caleb Williams in 2024, it seemed like a win-win for both franchises. Moore instantly became Chicago's top weapon and delivered, notching career highs across the board in his first season. His 230-yard, 3-touchdown outburst against Washington in Week 5 of 2023 became an instant classic, a glimpse of what could be, but that flash may have faded. Despite his on-field dominance, Moore has grown disillusioned behind closed doors. Insiders point to a lack of offensive consistency, questionable coaching decisions, and an unstable quarterback carousel that's undermined his ability to lead the team to wins. The 2024 season, though not a statistical disaster, felt underwhelming. Compared to Moore's personal standards and the weight of his new $110 million extension. While he still managed nearly 1,000 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns, sources say Moore has privately questioned whether the Bears are serious contenders or simply rebuilding around a rookie quarterback without a clear path forward. The irony? That very rookie, Caleb Williams, arrived in Chicago thanks in part to Moore's departure from Carolina. But the chemistry between them hasn't quite clicked as expected, and frustrations reportedly boiled over after several missed opportunities late in the season. Beyond the numbers and the locker room whispers, there's an emotional undercurrent to Moore's growing unrest. The 27-year-old wideout, now entering his athletic prime, is said to be laser-focused on chasing a championship, not just putting up fantasy stats. With rumors circulating that Moore has begun quietly evaluating other franchises and building relationships around the league, his situation is being watched closely by agents and executives alike. Chicago, meanwhile, finds itself in a precarious spot. Lose Moore and risk crippling their young quarterback's development, or keep a disgruntled star who may no longer believe in the project. As the 2025 offseason unfolds, don't be surprised if Moore becomes one of the hottest names on the trade market. Not because of poor performance, but because of ambition. For now, he remains a Bear. But in a league where loyalty often plays second fiddle to legacy, Moore's time in Chicago may be running on borrowed hours. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.